Hello, good morning, or afternoon, or night, I guess, depending on when you're watching this. But this chapter is pretty interesting. We'll go ahead and get right into it. It's chapter 18, the Andrew Carnegie's Emerald, which again, because of the introduction and the list of famous people listed, any chapter that has one of these people mentioned right there in the title, I'm going to focus in on a little bit, especially to see if there's any way they connect or can relate. I will start off with the most exciting thing first, all right? So again, this is a lion's share focused video. We're looking specifically at chapter 18, trying to see if we can get any clues or hints from this. All right, and I think I found a couple interesting things, okay? So right off from the bat, you'll notice that this is the second Emerald chapter. So for a book with as many unique and wonderful and varying history topics and chapters, treasures from all over the world, having a second emerald, especially right from Colombia, right? So on the picture, even though it's not really mentioned, I don't think in the chapter, it's right there. Right there it says, emerald from Muzo Mine, Boyacá Depot from Colombia, deposit, I guess maybe. And then right from the chapter 4, right, where they mentioned the diamond, the emerald they're looking in Colombia for it, right, the lost emerald mine. So we might be able to see what we can relate from this chapter to chapter 4. But one of the first things I found was, and this is pretty interesting, so at the end of every chapter, there's a little bit of a segue, right? And I've said I'm not really looking at the first or last paragraph for clues, and I haven't been. I'll read it, obviously, and if anything jumps out, I'll take it, but nothing, I haven't doing specific analysis on the words that are used, all right? Except something caught me today, okay? So when I got to the end of this chapter, right, chapter 18, I looked for, the segue and how it's going to introduce the moon rock, chapter 19, and I noticed something. It doesn't really say, I don't know if I'm going to read the whole paragraph out to you. Page 164, right, starts with, one of the hundreds of science projects Andrew Carnegie funded was the Mount Wilson Observatory. It's located not far from my home. Some more details about that. One of the last sentences, today we stand on the edge of a new frontier, one that will lead us further out into our universe than we've ever gone before. Soon new hunts will begin, and with them countless new treasures will be discovered. The future is alive with 1,000 adventures. And I thought to myself, that's interesting. It never directly referenced the next chapter. And then the phrase next chapter stuck in my head, and I went through and I said, I wonder how many chapters say the words next chapter. And every single segue from chapter 1 all the way to this chapter now has the words next chapter. Most of the time they're right next to each other. All right, let's read off a few examples. Okay, so page 25 into chapter 1. More diligently in their field of expertise than the woman in our next chapter. And then it talks about her name. Twiget, Niget, spend over 50 years, yada, 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 okay? Chapter 2. Here we go. Chapter 2. Here we go. Page 37. Although I've yet to tell him this directly, one of the men in our next chapter helped me inspire this, okay? Second to last paragraph right there. And it goes on and on. I'm not going to read every single one. You can do that for yourself. I encourage you to. Don't ever take what I say, just as gospel truth just because I'm saying it, because I'm human too. The only caveat will be chapter 11, which could be something interesting if there's only 2 chapters that don't have it. Chapter 11, the treasures from a famous shipwreck. At the very end of that one, nope, that was page 108, our next chapter. I think it was chapter 10 then? There's one chapter that it doesn't have it. No, chapter 10 has it, our next chapter. Where did captures this chapter? All right, pause. Oh, here we go. It's the Hopi chapter, which would be chapter 8. Okay, so chapter 8. Last paragraph, I'll read this one, it's a little shorter. Learning about other cultures is an exercise in keeping our minds free and open. This is an important practice because when people believe there is just one right way of doing the thing, they may begin to see those things that can only confirm what they already believe to be true. This conundrum can lead to a condition called confirmation bias, and beware, confirmation bias is a treasure hunter's most dreaded foil. For this reason, it deserves a closer look. All right, so that is the end of the chapter. That's the last paragraph specifically. And even if you look the two before it, the phrase "next chapter" is not in there. All right, so up until now we have chapter 8, and the one we're talking about today, the Carnegie chapter 8 and what did I say? 19. Yeah, 8 and 19. Sorry, 8 and 18. 8 and 18. Okay, let's get that right. Chapters 8 and 18 do not end with a segue that says the phrase next chapter. They introduce it in a way, right? Confirmation bias deserves a closer look. That's kind of an introduction. Talking about the telescope. Okay, we're talking about space. That's an introduction. But because we're looking at details, right? Thanks to chapter 3, magnifying glass. We're looking at paying attention to words and phrases that are used and what's not used. We're looking for patterns. Even if this isn't a direct clue, it could be a hint. So that's something that I encourage you to use in your solves going forward. I encourage you to look into that and see if that helps you. Chapters 8 and 18, I got those right. 8 and 18 do not have the exact words next chapter. All the other ones do. Most of them say next chapter together. There's one chapter that says coming up next, dun dun dun, this chapter, dun dun dun. So I think that might be 16. Excuse me. I found it's the Jackie Onassis one. It's chapter 10. And it says, from this chapter, we turn our attention to the next. All right, so that's the only one from from chapter 1 to 18. That's the only segue that doesn't have the phrase next chapter in it directly. Because this one has chapter and then next. All the other ones, except for 8 and 18, include it. All right, so recap, here's what we have. Chapter 8, there's no mention of it. Chapter 10, it has them in reverse order. And then chapter 18, there's no mention of it either. Every other chapter has next chapter in their segue in that exact same order, that exact same phrase. So what it means, hey, that's not my job. I'm just pointing out things, pointing it out to you, and pointing it out there, putting it out there for everybody. Your job is to take that and make something happen of it, all right? Can't do all the work here, come on. So that is what I had there. What other things do I find in chapter 18? Another phrase that stuck out to me was, we can cover this part. A couple chapters ago, I talked about how the quotes seemed a little different to me, and how there was not an attributed line, right? So the first time quotes are mentioned, it has a little line and who says it, and then like 2 chapters later, there's just a little, a paragraph break, then an italicized paragraph. All right, I apologize. I'm dog sitting, and someone's being a little angry at the Amazon guy, I guess. Okay. Anyways, here we go. The chapter, the quotes. That's what I was talking about. The quotes. So, I've come to the conclusion for right now. This is what I'm working on. That there's not an attributed line when it's a story or being introduced as a story, right? And what made me think of that was page 160. So it says, I have a good editor. He's excellent at what he does. Immediately, one of his comments jumped out at me, and then it goes on to what the comment was. And then when Muhammad Ali's, his brother's statement is being introduced, it's called a story. So I know early on in chapter 1, we were looking for, or the clues the rules that I came up with, right, were colors, the details of the words, and we're looking for stories and stories. So maybe this is something, and I might have to go back and do that every time there's a paragraph of italics inside of a chapter. That's a story in a story. I was looking for stories and stories, and I just couldn't figure out where they were. Well, maybe this is where they are, and that would mean that there'd be a specific hint or clue just in those italicized words. So I hadn't been doing that for the last couple of chapters, so I might have to go back at some point and see that. I don't know. I might do that at the end of this video. I've got time today, so we'll see. We'll see where that leads. Okay, so for chapter 18, we're looking at stories and stories, which is the paragraph words. the italicized words. Then we looked at the segue and how it doesn't have next chapter, which I think is something. The only other thing that really popped out to me, I mean, it's a good story. I mean, I like the story of Carnegie. Classic tale of, coming from nothing, self-made man, bootstraps, all that jazz. It appeals to a lot of people. But going on, page 161 at the bottom, where it says, of course, there are many types of giving: time, effort, and encouragement. I hadn't really heard about that before. I mean, I've heard of there are different ways to give, right? You can give your time, resources, or talent is what or time, talent. There's other ways that I've heard it explained. I just haven't heard this three: time, effort, and encouragement. And it makes sense. I mean, I get it, right? You can give your time going out and volunteering, or you can give your, I guess he's using effort as like treasure or resources, right? Encouragement, giving encouragement, I guess that's what more casual one-on-one or public speaking, and maybe he has some background on that with when he was doing the more public sales role and the training in that. But from those three, of course, there are many types of giving: time, effort, encouragement. So when that's introduced, now I'm looking for the rest of the chapter, and I don't really see it laid out as cleanly. Like if I was writing, or if I'm grading someone writing a paper, right, and if they say in any part of an introduction, whether it's introduction to the paper or introduction to a paragraph, and they say, of course, there are many types of giving: time, effort, encouragement. What I'm looking for as a grader is I'm looking for them to expound on time, effort, and encouragement, and give a sentence explanation, at least if it's in a paragraph, or if that's an introduction to a paper, I'm looking for a whole paragraph on how you can give your time, how you can give your effort, or how you can give encouragement. But then from that sentence, it just goes into some kinds, like choosing a gift can feel like art. So giving a gift, is that time, effort, or encouragement? Effort, maybe? Then it talks about Andrew Carnegie approach giving like a science. Then the next paragraph, I have great admiration. And then it goes into his history. And then we don't talk about giving up until maybe the bottom of the page. Andrew Carnegie spent his newfound free time. Okay, so that's time. Wrote a book, Gospel of Wealth. And maybe the book is encouragement, because in it he writes, the man who dies thus rich dies disgraced. So he's encouraging people. So if that's how, it's a little bit convoluted. It's not as clean, but if that's how he's going to explain himself of the different types of giving: time, effort, encouragement. He goes right to effort, and then he goes to time and encouragement are kind of together. I don't know. Tell me what you think if you're watching this video, and if you're trying to go down this rabbit hole of course, there are many types of giving: time, effort, encouragement. Anytime in the book where he lists something, I pay close attention to it, right? Because, and most of the time he lists things in threes. In the very beginning, when he lists all the famous people, that's a list of 5 or 6. Let me turn back, because it's just right here. I got the book in my lap. More than a few, page 9, more than a few have historical significance: Picasso, Carnegie, Washington, Tiffany, Thoreau, and Onassis. So that's 6, all right? But again, anytime he lists something in the book, you definitely want to write that down, definitely want to key in on that, all right? So is this a clue? Is this a hint? Of course, there are many types of giving: time, effort, and encouragement. If we're looking for what of those three is not mentioned, he kind of covers all of them depending on how you want to interpret it. Giving time, he talks about his newfound free time. You get effort. It takes effort to write a book. If he's talking about effort, is the effort he amassed his wealth, and now he's giving that back, so that's covered in giving his own money. Encouragement, right? He wrote a book to encourage people to give. Is there any other encouraging? I don't know. Maybe encouragement's the weak one. He came up with institutions by founding the 1911. Carnegie formed the Carnegie Corporation to oversee all his philanthropic engagements. So that's encouragement also, by forming a corporation that's dedicated to giving all this stuff away. So I would say that he covers those three: time, effort, encouragement. It's just unique in how he covers them, right? It's a little bit divided. And maybe because they're hidden, or how maybe that's part of the hunt, is we're I'm not really sure. That's just something that popped out to me. Okay, I think that's all the stuff I have from this chapter. But because I talked about the quotes, we can kind of go into them a little bit. Chapter 5. Remember? Okay, chapter 5 is where the quotes are first introduced. And by that, I mean there's no quote in the chapters 1 through 4. All right, let's flip through. Yeah. Nope. Nope. Okay, that's a good statement. I stand by it. There's no quote like right here, right? Chapter 5. There's none of that in chapters 1 through 4. And remember I said chapters 1 through 6 are still our introductory chapters on the how-to. So this is where, in my mind, he's introducing us how to look at these quotes. Right? It's a classic way to put up a quote. It's got a sentence introducing it. He's got the quote in italics, and he's got he doesn't have the quote marks, which some places do. And then he has a little line that who says it. Thomas Aquinas is the first one, right? And it goes on in that chapter. Another quote by Art Smith, same kind of format. Italicized words, little line with who says it. Now we go into 6 again, 2 quotes, same format. Here's where it gets different, is in chapter 7. Those aren't quotes, it's a poem. So I think it's 8 that has the first one. Nope, 8 is still another quote, same format, line. Is it 9? No quotes. Now we're in 10. Nothing. Now we're in 11. The book is short enough that I can flip through. 11. Nope. 13. Okay, here we go. Yeah, this is where I first saw it. Now I remember. Come back to me. 13. So they're mirrored, right? On either side of the page. So that's something to look at because we're looking for mirrors thanks to the sapphire in chapter 1. So it's mirrored. So what's different? Are they exactly the same? They both kind of start on the same part of the page, right? If you look, they're both about the same part. You could, if you want, you get a ruler and measure it out. However, one has the line said by Barack Obama, and the other one doesn't. Let's see. So Barack Obama's quote, the President of the United States mentioned this, right? So it doesn't say the word quote exactly, but it says he mentioned it. Look at the other side. Brent Huygens said the following, but it doesn't have a quote and doesn't have the name by it. So originally I thought it was something. For now, I think I'm going to go with that's how we know there's a hint or a clue in it, because it doesn't have the little line and who said it, right? So looking through this, I did point this out in the chapter 13 video. So if you go back to my chapter 13 video, you will see I called this one out. And it's the words in there that kind of at first sight, first read, feel a little off to me, right? Completely packed fresh with the 50-50 alignment, dagger sharp corners, and here's the bold capital gem mint cardstock. Again, those words seemed odd at first. Upon looking at different card selling sites, I do see some of those words used, not in that exact same order, which is why we've worded our superior certification, superiors in quotes. Let's see, finest. I mean, so what the clue is in there, I don't know, but if we're going along this path, we could say that that's one of the first little, I don't know what I'm going to call them, stories, I guess, stories in a story. If we go down to 14, right, 14, here's 2 more, page 129 and 130. Again, see, I mean, it's got to be something, because page 129, the 2 original pages of, this is I'm reading from the book now, page 139. The 2 original pages of Henry David Thoreau's journal are included in our treasure. The pages written in 1851 carry with them some historical significance. Below is one quote from them, and then it has the quote, but there's no line underneath of it. Every other time when he says it's a quote, there's the quote by who says it. And then it goes on again with more paragraphs. So, and I'm beginning to think that this is how we can tell that there's some hints in here, because again, the phrase historical significance, I just covered this in a video. If we go back to page 13, here we go, page 13, middle of the page. And yes, some of the clues to finding the largest treasure box are found within the histories of these treasure items themselves. All right, so they're within the history. So we're looking at the histories for the clues. And right now he says, these pages carry with them historical significance, and blows a quote from them. So the clue is in the page, and here's a quote from that page. I mean, I don't think I'm sounding crazy here. That's a pretty logical leap, right? The introduction tells you there's clues in the historical, in the stories. Sorry, I got it. There's clue. The first page. Let me calm down. Page 13. It tells you in the introduction to the book that there's clues in the histories of the treasure. Here we go again. Page 129. The pages of Thoreau's journal have historical significance, and here's a quote. And then it tells you the quote. So, here, let me go to read it. The art of life, how to live, how to get the most of life, how to extract its honey from the flower of the world. This is my everyday business. I am like the bee searching the livelong day for the sweets of nature. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but anytime you see the three little dots, isn't that, is that an ellipsis? No, that's not an ellipsis. What's the three little dots? Anyways, anytime you see the three little dots in a quote, to me that means there's more to the quote, right? I think that's how that works in English. So the actual journal page that's pictured does not say the art of life, ... how to live, ... It says the art of life and then a bunch of other stuff, right? So this is JCB pulling words out of the journal to make a quote, to convey the important parts. I think there's something there. All right, what it is, I don't know, but I think there's something there. So I'm going to spend some time going forward, not on video, do it off camera, going through any time in the book where there is, again, 140 is another one, where there's a paragraph break and then italics, whether it says the word quote or not, but I'm looking at any place that does not have an attributed line to who says it. All right, I just think it's significant, and I'm not willing to put that to rest or lay that to the side. I'm going to spend some time doing that. All right, so that's I think that's all I wanted to cover book-wise for right now. So to quick recap, we've got covered chapter 18, talked about how the segue does not say next chapter. So maybe all these patterns and anomalies, patterns and anomalies from the chapters just are a way to give us a grouping, right? So the introduction tells us a whole list of chapters with famous historical figures. That's a grouping. Anytime there's a chapter that doesn't have the phrase next chapter in the segue, that's a grouping. And of course, I still want to group the colors together. Anytime a chapter mentions, well, maybe not mention, because there's a lot of them that mention color, but anytime the color appears significant, right, that's another grouping. And then maybe once we find the groupings, we can get the clues and arrange some kind of way to determine the boots on the ground. I'm starting to get, I'm encouraged that more and more people are finding locations to go boots on the ground, especially this early. For anyone who's reached out to me, a few people have reached out wanting to collaborate, partner up for a lion's share box specifically because they already have places. It's encouraging that, a couple months in, people are already finding spots. I still don't have a spot yet. Early in chapter 1, I was feeling cocky and I thought I'd do a whole lot better at finding stuff. And so I threw out Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota. I really haven't found anything to back those up outside of chapter 1 yet. But I haven't really been looking for something yet. So again, and I mainly picked those because going off of a map of where I think the other 4 are. So I was looking for a region that didn't have a box nearby, to make it equitable for everybody. But again, so anyone who's thinking about reaching out to me, I'm more than happy to talk with you guys, offline for those who we started a dialogue. And I'm more than happy to listen to your thoughts and bounce them off you, bounce them off each other. But I don't have really much to give other than what I'm saying right now. Anything I have is kind of like half cocked. It's not really put together yet. Like the stories, like these whole italicized stories. I want to polish that up a little bit before I put it out there. But if you want to reach out to me again, I'm more than happy to talk. You can find me on Discord. My name is Froggy. You can find me pretty easily there. YouTube, I'm happy to talk in the comments, and we do have some good back and forth in the comments. But that's what I have for chapter 18 that we just covered. Looking forward to doing the moon rock. Looking forward that I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and then we can properly sit down and see what if we can find a boots on the ground location, or at least a state, or maybe even a couple states together. But I think that's pretty exciting. All right, that's looks like the dog is quieted down now. All right, that's all I got. All right, bye.